Our scientists have done things which nobody's ever done before.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
First off, I don't think we'll see a new edition of Heresy. No 3.0 and no new ways to play. Heresy 2.0 is still a relatively new system, and I don't see it going the route of 40k with a new edition and update what feels like every weekend. I'm so confident that we won't see a 3.0 that I'll eat my hat if we see a 3.0 released anytime before 2026. Hi every pony, Mechanid here. By now you've all no doubt seen the leaks, and if it's fake, it's a damn good one, especially with a lot of these clues matching up with the scraps that we've received from the Horus Hearsay website. Link below to Reddit where I first saw this picture, and thanks to the lads who mentioned it in the comments of the last short, and led me to this harrowing discovery. And, along with the timer to planetfall at 399 hours, roughly equating to sometime on May 29th, it looks like the new edition of Horus Heresy is fast approaching. Fuck. My name is Mechanid. Let's get started. The leak. Not sure who posted this first, but this picture has appeared on both Reddit and on 4chan. But it appears to show a new box set in the same vein of the Age of Darkness box, including models, dice, measuring sticks, and a rulebook. Speculation runs rampant as to the actual source of this. Maybe it's a disgruntled employee, did it fall off the back of a wagon, or was it incorrectly shipped? Who knows? But let's get into the more important stuff. The miniatures. The Saturnine Terminators. The new and exciting release, and its Heresy-era Centurion battlesuits. And I'm not impressed. These super old retro Terminators are back from the dead, and I think these things look goofy. Like, silly, and not in a good way. My guess is that they'll be even bigger than Custodes Terminators, probably on 40mm basis or bigger. At nearly twice the height of regular Space Marines, they will dwarf most other infantry. I'm assuming the Marine inside is using controls, as there's no way a human arm, Space Marine or not, can reach that far down. Coming in squads of 3 makes them much more similar to a 40k elite unit, and with both a shooting and melee variant, the comparison to 40k Centurions is all the more relevant, with both a dual plasma cannon variant and a more traditional gun and power fist loadout. On a more personal level, I find these poses very static. Even comparing to some of the artwork that I found with a cursory Google search, they look very flat on. Now, I don't need to see them leaping or rolling around, but just giving me something else would be much more preferable than this legs locked, straight back pose. Lastly, I find the groups of 3 to be very awkward. This is definitely more of a 40k Space Marine thing, but my preferences, or should I say my brand of autism, prefers multiples of 5 over multiples of 3. I'll be interested to see the rules for these, and I imagine they're going to be quite good, especially if they're going to be the flagship product of the new box. However, I'm not a fan of these guys. I don't think they look very good at all. The Saturnine Praetor. Everything I find silly about the regular guys, this guy cranks it all the way up to 11. Just look at the size of this lad. He's the size of a Primarch. It's ridiculous. He's got an iron halo to prevent him from ever being able to enter a building or a transport, and a hammer almost twice as long as a Space Marine is tall. He's covered in greebles and filigree, and is far closer to an Emperor's Children Space Marine than any other Legion. And lastly, he has a tactical rock to make him even taller. Like, he's already got a great big fin, does he not stick out enough? In addition, he's also got a power fist and an integrated weapon. I'm sure he'll have his fans, but for me, there's nothing here that I really like. The Heresy model range is already overloaded on characters, so for me, this guy is just adding to the bloat. And not to mention, we still don't have characters in Indomitus Terminator armor, so to me, this is just another step in the wrong direction. The Saturnine Dreadnought. I actually don't hate this. The sloped armor makes this appear much more manageable, even if he is as likely to be as big as a Telamon Dreadnought or a Leviathan at the very least, and is armed with what appears to be a plasma cannon and possibly a big Disintegrator cannon, or maybe a melter gun and a pair of smaller torso guns, which I'll bet are also disintegrators of some kind. However, out of all the minis in the box, I think this one is the least needed. We already have 4 patterns of Dreadnoughts, 2 of which are in heavy support, where I think this guy will end up, and all those Dreadnoughts can pack some really nasty shooting. Not to mention this guy is stepping on the toes of the Leviathan and will further crowd an already packed heavy support selection. I hope this guy is more posable, as this stance is quite bland, and he reminds me a lot of what a 3D printable sculpt would look like for a not quite 40k Dreadnought. I have no doubt there'll be a melee loadout for this coming as well. Out of all the Saturnine stuff, this is far the best looking, but that still doesn't redeem it from being incredibly superfluous. 40 Space Marines. Now this is pretty damn good. While I'm always a fan of big blocks of infantry, the issue that I have is that from the looks of it, these guys are in the same template as the Mark 6 Marines. If they are, they'll be compatible with all of the upgrade kits, which is good, but it'll lead to a very samey looking army if all the guys have the exact same pose repeated every 5 lads, especially if you've got the Mark 6, Mark 4 and Mark 2 now, all stood in the same way with all the same poses, and the only difference being the shape of the armor plates. While getting a load more Space Marine bodies is a great way of making infantry horde lists easier to construct, but with only a single type of special weapon kit in the box, there's not many ways to create different loadouts and different ways to play if this is your starting box set. I'll be interested to see the new Mark IIs close up, but so far I'm not impressed with this many guys. The Centurion. I will be interested to see if this guy is going to be a new console for the Legions or an existing one. While the cloak and the decoration he has makes it hard to discern much about what he looks like, however, it seems quite generic to me, which is a good thing because it makes it more applicable to different Legions, and there's nothing that jumps out to me as being particularly special. Not a huge fan of the back banner, though I imagine they'll be quite easy to remove, though he has got this servo skill on Elite, so perhaps this is a Master of the Forge or Master of Signals. We'll have to wait and see. The turret. This is apparently a quad accelerator autocannon, and I'm left wondering why. Don't get me wrong, as I'm the Tarantula Sentry Gun's biggest fan, I love turrets, but why is this here? Unless it can do something cool like deploy from orbit and deep strike Helldiver style, or be forward deployed like it's been set up in advance, or have some other functionality, I don't see anything that this brings to the game that other units don't do better. One interesting thought is that if this is an anti-aircraft gun, then it could go a long way to imply that more flyers are coming to Heresy, maybe a plastic Xiphon or Fire Raptor. And GW wants a way for new players to be able to combat those flyers. Either way, it'll make for a nice terrain piece, if nothing else. The Disintegrators. I very much like the high risk, high reward element of Disintegrators, a beam of killing light that's got a very real chance to vaporize the user as well as the target. What I don't like is that these feel to me like selling the solution to a problem that GW has created. The way I see it, if the new flashy unit are these stupidly huge Terminators with loads of armor and loads of wounds, and the best way to kill them is to turn them to dust, then this just means that if you're not rocking around with one of these squads, then you're just going to get rolled over. Getting a load of them in the box is nice, but I find myself wondering, would a melee weapon sprue not be better here, or include one of the heavy weapons or special weapon kits instead? Would be much more flexible and allow for a wider appeal among players. I'll reserve judgment until I see the rules, but I'm wary of this, as I don't think it bodes well for the health of the game or the longevity of this box set. The book. This is what interests me the most, and not just because it may make me have to eat my hat. If this is a new edition, then it could mean so many things, from balance changes to a full rules overhaul. I hope to God that it's more in line with Heresy 1 than Modern 40k, but with GW, it could be literally anything. If this is just an update, then I hope it brings with it the fixes that are greatly needed in 2.0, but in short, we need to wait and see for more information, and any speculation is useless at this point. We'll have to wait and see what this new edition may bring. The issues. First off, I find the pairing of Iron Warriors and Salamanders to be an odd pairing. I'm glad both legions are getting some more love, but why are these the guys that are facing off? Why not Salamanders and Night Lords, the classic good guys and evil scumbags, or put Iron Warriors against their hated rival, the Imperial Fists? It's an odd combo, and while it is only an aesthetic choice, it still sits oddly with me. However, I have bigger concerns. In a nutshell, we don't need any of these models. We need easy access to good value for money infantry to help build the core of armies, and I'm talking about breachers and recon marines. We don't need super heavy terminators, we don't need gun turrets, and we don't need another pattern of tactical marines. While I have no doubt people may have wanted these minis, it doesn't justify their addition to the model range, while so many other kits languish in resin, or just don't exist at all. Just think about it for a second. We could be getting Saturnine Terminators before plastic recon marines and plastic breachers. Absolute mad world. And I'll keep beating this dead horse because it deserves another good beating. It took years for the Assault Marine kit to come out, years for the melee weapon kit to come out, and so if you wanted to play something that isn't tactical marines, if you wanted to play Despoilers or recon marines or all of these things, you're going to have to wait years. It's a really baffling choice that GW has made to release these very specialist units rather than doing anything to support the infantry that makes up the core of nearly all armies in the game. Now, I want to be clear, it's not that you can't introduce these models to the game and that you can't like them. It's about when and how they are brought into the game, and the fact that they are here before all the things the game desperately needs, I find is a very big misstep on behalf of the company. So, not great. My next issue is imagine trying to split this down the middle. Doing 40 Marines, a Centurion, and a turret thingy versus 7 Saturnine dudes and a Dread is totally unbalanced. I don't see a way to split this without seriously compromising all the forces. Another issue is how this box set will not serve all legions equally. How many World Eater players are going to want all these tactical Marines as opposed to wanting Despoilers? Or Raven Guard players needing all this super heavy Terminators? If you're splitting this box with your mates, that's probably the best way to use this box, but in a vacuum, I'd find it a stretch if you were going to put all of these dudes to work in most legions, especially if you're only playing a single legion. And when compared to the previous box, which was much better investment for starting an army, and especially when compared to the Betrayal at Calth box, which was even better, both of these boxes were much more flexible and versatile while serving all of the legions. This box caters to a very specific infantry spam and super heavy Terminator style of play, which isn't bad, but it just seems to me like it's much more geared towards established, entrenched players who have already got a lot of miniatures and want the new shiny thing, as opposed to new players who are just trying to start their army. And even all the good things about this box set, like having so many Space Marines to begin with, all of those things have pretty glaring issues. Well, it remains to be seen if this box set is legit, which we think it is, and if the contents will change or if they've got any other qualities. I can't see anything redeeming about this as of yet. What would I do? Instead of all this mess, I would have done something completely different. I'd have made 2 smaller starter box sets instead of 1 massive one. First, a Zone Mortalis box with breachers and despoilers and a pair of consoles like a champion or maybe a new breacher console to help onboard new players into the first steps of the hobby and give breachers the much needed plastic sculpts they need while also adding some more despoilers. Maybe have Dark Angels versus Night Lords in the Shadow Crusade, or any of the legions fighting through the guts of the Imperial Palace on Terra. Second, I'd make a larger recon themed force with recon marines and bikes, either jet bikes or regular outriders, land speeders, and maybe some light tanks as well, either Arquitors or Sabres or maybe even a Predator or 2. Again, trying to make stuff that all the legions can use. You could do White Scars versus Death Guard, or maybe even Raven Guard versus Alpha Legion during the events of Deliverance Lost. Furthermore, I would just announce what we're doing and not beat around the bush. Just say, hey guys, here's a product, you can buy it, boom, that's it. If I had to release Saturnine Terminators, I would get some short stories or an anthology written and be released for free on the community website. Maybe even get someone to voice act it and release it on YouTube as well, to ease them back into the world after they've been absent for so long. Just something to help make this release more natural and to engage with people who interact with the hobby in different ways, involve the lore guys as well as the model and the gameplay guys. I feel like such an approach is much more structured and doesn't leave any room for misinterpretation and won't leave a bad taste in anyone's mouth, as this advertising campaign clearly has. The new edition. Now, if there is a new edition coming, and I really don't want that to be because I would mean I'll have to eat my hat and I'll be really fucking mad about that, it would bring 30k into the same 3-year release cycle that 40k has succumbed to. I, for one, am not a fan of the ever-changing landscape, and while balance changes and corrections to rules are welcome, I don't want to have to adjust every time a new edition or balance update comes out. My main concern is about the implementation and the execution of new edition rollouts, and not just the frequency of new editions and balance updates. I want stability in my game system. I want a settled and stable base which I don't have to work to keep up with. A fluctuating meta is fine, preferable even to those people that like those sorts of things, especially in a competitive environment. But that exact sort of environment is why I left 40k and came to 30k. I worry that if Heresy becomes too much like 40k, I will lose the game that I've come to love. Fortunately, if the rules are crap, we still have all the old ones still there, and we can still go and play 2.0 and even 1.0. Finally, and the biggest issue I have with this whole Heresy mess, is the lack of clarity from Games Workshop. I love this hobby, and the game and the universe. I wouldn't have made a YouTube channel if I didn't. What I don't like is these sorts of advertising campaigns and teasers. I would much rather GW just say, here's the product, and here's how you can buy it, off you go. I understand why GW does this. It works. These sorts of teasers and drip feeding feeds the rumor engine and drives sales as people impulse buy. Hell, I'm talking about it right now, so guess what? They got me too. However, just because I understand it doesn't mean that I have to like it. I would always advocate for caution and restraint, especially when buying such expensive products, and I think GW needs to wind their necks in and understand that they are a luxury brand and not make such asinine marketing decisions. Clarity builds trust, and adverts like this are the opposite of that. And while I have no doubt that some people find them humorous, it only takes one such advert to permanently damage your reputation with a customer, and then you've lost them forever. That buyer is then constantly on guard, and you're never getting them back. So my advice, GW, is to be more careful. All in all, I'm not impressed. It's not all doom and gloom though. I do have some hopes for the new edition. I hope that when this new edition does come out, it brings with it the following changes, among other things. Number 1. More options for all legions, especially when it comes to different ways to play, such as traitor options for traditionally loyalist legions and vice versa. More options in how to build your squads, especially troops. Having the different armor marks play into how the models work on the tabletop could be a really good way of doing this, with the newer Mark 6 edition making your guys move a bit faster but have less toughness, something like that. Balance Dreadnoughts. Either nerf the weapons and stat line or drastically increase the points cost. I don't care which, get them under control. Reduce or remove Brutal altogether and buff blast weapons. Address vehicle squadrons and wound spillover. Killing one tank shouldn't detonate the whole squadron. I'd want existing legacy and exemplary units rolled into the main books, so that players don't have to go hunting for different sheets and books, they can just get them all in one place. I'm sure there are other issues, not to mention prices, etc., but these are the big ones for me. What changes would you guys want to see in the new edition that I'm sure is right round the corner? So there, my thoughts on the leak and the hearsay mess, and it's not great. If you do like the look of these things, then great. I'm not trying to take away your enjoyment of it. I want to express my thoughts and feelings and to give voice as to why I'm probably not going to get this box, unless maybe splitting it with a friend. I think this box is more than likely going to be more expensive than the previous boxes, and that's not great. I also don't think it's going to be very good at getting more people into the hobby. I imagine a lot of people are going to get these Saturnine Terminators and then not use them as much as they would use a lot of infantry, their recon marines, their breaches, yada 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 yada, you know what I mean. Now, if this leak is real, and it probably is at this point, I don't think it's a Games Workshop plant. I very much doubt they would have gone through the whole effort to do all these teasers and make a video just to have some random photo crush all that work under heel. There is, however, a chance that they saw people clowning on the hearsay video, and so GW releases to get everyone talking about the leak instead, but I doubt very much that. It's not that I don't think they're playing 4D chess, I just think they just genuinely do not care what people say about their products. They just release them and sell them, boom. As always, I will say do not impulse buy. All of these models will be available for single purchase or at discounts, so you don't need to rush out and grab this box set. Don't let yourself get swept up in the hype, and for the love of God, don't give in to the fear of missing out. Use your brains, people. The models will still be there. And lastly, as a little update on my side, I'm still going to keep on making 2.0 content up to the release and until I get my hands on a copy of the rules. Also, depending on the state of the rules, I may also keep making 2.0 content, especially if the new rules are dog shit. So with that in mind, I'll see you all there. My name is Mechanid. Thanks so much for watching. God, this advert is shit.